All right, lesson 1 from chapter 6, and this is about integers. This is what you worked on today in your groups, and hopefully we can define it a little bit better and use it tomorrow. So as you can see, we're going to learn how to write them. That's going to include some vocabulary. We're going to graph them on a number line, and we're going to relate them to what happens in real life. So let's get started. All right, so the first thing, of course, the whole chapter is called integers, so we better know what an integer is. Integers are whole numbers. Make sure you realize you can put things on a number line that aren't whole numbers, but when we use the word integer, they are whole numbers and the opposites, and their opposites. And part of the definition could be, and you can put them on a number line. However, just to make it simple, we just say if it's a number and it's opposite, and if you have a number and it's opposite, it can go on a number line. We have two parts of a number line. We have the positive. This means they are greater than, and we will often use the symbol greater than 0. And sometimes we might put a cross through the 0 so that you know it's not the letter O. And negative numbers, of course, are less than 0. That looks a little better. So greater than, less than. Anything that's greater than 0 is positive. No matter how big the number is, how small the number is, it's positive, as long as it's on the right-hand side of 0. If it's on the left-hand side of 0, it would be negative, no matter how large of a number or how small of a number. Opposites. An opposite, and I think most of you got this in class today, has the same, and we want to use the word distance. It's a measurement. Distance from 0. So you only have one opposite. So if I said -7, it only has one opposite, which is +7. There is only one other way to get to 0 other than from the left, and that's from the right. Okay, now you've got some good terms. We're going to use them and put them on a number line. And number lines will always look like this. However, you can turn them in another direction. So if they go vertically, that's fine. If they go horizontally, that's fine. But just make sure, if it's a vertical line, this would be negative and this would be positive. If it's a horizontal line, this would be positive, this would be negative. Now, where do I put the 0? We always think of 0 as the middle, but it doesn't have to go in the middle. Let's say, for example, I know that I have more negatives that I'm going to be plotting than positives. I might put my 0 slightly to one side or all the way to one side. But often you'll just see it in the middle. And we always put our place numbers, this is so that I know in what place I am, on the bottom. Do we have to number by ones? Not necessarily. I could say the value of this number line is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So this would be -2, -4, -6, -8, and -10. I could do it by fives, hundreds. It just means that in between each line that I draw, there are other lines that are indicated. Sometimes we make them kind of small little dots like that, just to see where there's the 7 would be right there. But often we just assume that if it's halfway between a 6 and an 8, then that would be where the 7 would belong. When you are given a problem and we say plot it, you're labeling the bottom. In fact, to make it a little bit quicker, sometimes we say, well, you don't have to label everything. You could label every other one just to save a little bit of time. So it might look like this. We can still read it the same. Whoop, there's a little line there. We can still read it the same. However, the answer always goes on top. So here's how it might look. Let's say I said, you have, well, we'll use the number 7, because we had started with that before. Let's say that we have 7 positives. We're going to put a mark on the number line, and we're going to write its value above. So make sure that you make the dot large enough. If you want to use color, that's fine. And then if I want to graph its opposite, which I think you'll be asked to do tomorrow, I do the same thing. Remember, it's the same distance from 0, and I'd label it with its opposite. So there you go. This is how you would show your work when we say graph your numbers on a number line. And then lastly, we want to know, how do we use this in real life? And this is where you are going to, excuse me, do a few things. I'm going to start you off, and I want you to use your book. There are so many ways that I could give illustrations of using number lines in real life. Of course, today we use temperature. And so we'll start there. How I want you to do this is 3 columns. I want you to write the situation. So we're talking here about temperature. And it could be C or F, Celsius or Fahrenheit. And then I want you to give me the word that I would use in that situation to go up, and the word I would use in that situation to go down. So I would probably say it will rise or it will fall. And of course, it could be past tense. It rose or it fell, or will rise or will fall. But those would be the typical words that we would use with the situation of talking about temperature. Now, remember, and maybe I need to emphasize this at this point, it can rise from a negative number to another negative number and still not be a positive answer or a positive result. So when I put a plus here, that does not mean that it is a positive answer. Anytime I use rise, it's positive. So the plus here means we're adding. We add to the situation. The minus here is really a minus. It's not a negative. It means we're taking away. So temperatures can fall from 100 degrees down to 90 degrees. It's still hot. It's still a positive number. Sorry, I don't have room to put this in. There we go. Take away. I took away 10 degrees. It's still a positive answer. So there is a big difference between add and positive and subtract and negative. Okay, then how about, let's take one more that I know is in your book. Let's say hiking. Hiking or elevation. Other people who, like a topographer or something. Anybody who would have to do with elevation. Excuse me, you can write that out. I kind of ran out of room. All right, so hiking or elevation. And when I hike, well, I don't rise up a hill. I could walk up. I could ascend. Or I could walk down or descend. Did I spell that right? I think so. If I didn't, you fix it. All right, so there's 2 of them. Now what I'd like you to do is go into your book, and I'd like you to list 5 more situations and give me the words that I would use, one meaning add to the situation, one meaning take away from the situation. Make sure they're real life and not mathematical terms. Then, when you've done that, I want you to draw 2 number lines. And I'd like you to, on page 250, I would like you to do number 2 and number 4 at the very bottom of the page. So I'd like you to put those 2 values that it talks about, and they're 2 different situations. You know what? Actually, you could put it on one number line. I'm changing my mind here. So you could put both of those, number 2 and number 4, on the same number line and label them, and that will show me that you know how to use a number line. All right, there's your video, and see you tomorrow.